So, how many of you in chat know about the Boots theory of economics? It's a very simple one. It's a very, very simple theory, but it tends to hold very, very true, right? So, the layman's version of the Boots theory of economics, the layman's version of it is this. Let's say that you are poor. Well, we'll say poor. Whatever you envision as poor, envision as poor. Now, you understand that your friend who is not poor has to spend a certain amount of money on their shoes. And it always seems ludicrous, right? They talk about spending $70 on a pair of shoes, $80 on a pair of shoes, $100 on a pair of shoes. It seems insane to you that they are spending that much money on shoes. You go to the store and you spend $12 or $13 on a pair of shoes. At least here, a Walmart branded pair of shoes will run anywhere between 14 and 20 bucks. You spend that much money. In 3 months, you end up replacing that pair of shoes. It's your only pair of shoes you have, so it's your daily wearer. You end up running it into the ground because you're using it for work, leisure, everything. You're running through clay in it, you're going to work in it, walking on concrete floors, you are actively kicking curbs with it. Every single thing that you can do with those shoes, you are doing, because it is your pair of shoes. Cool. Now that we've established that you've spent $20 on this pair of shoes, in fact, actually, let's go ahead real quick. We'll pull up the calculator so we can see. So you spent $20 on this pair of shoes, and they lasted you 3 months. So in 3 months, you spend another $20 on another pair of shoes. By the end of the year, you've spent $80 on shoes. That's very expensive. You've spent almost as much as your friend did on his shoes. Now what's your friend doing? Your friend spent $80 in shoes. Well, the material they're made out of is way, way better. Nakibree says, wait, there are shoes that cost $10 to $20? Yes. If you go to your local Walmart, go to the shoe section of Walmart, that shoe section, depending on where you are, has shoes that have these like little S that look like they're knockoff Skechers. Those shoes are about 10 to 20 bucks. But so you've worn those shoes down. Your friend, on the other hand, has a really nice pair of shoes. They spent $80 on that pair of shoes. And that pair of shoes lasted them about 2 years. Which means for every 3-month stint that you were buying a new pair of shoes for 20 bucks, they were spending 20 bucks. Because over the course of, let's say, we've got 12 months. So every 3 months, you've got $20 shoes. Let's go ahead and say that every 12 months, you're spending 80 bucks. So for every 24 months that they spent 80 bucks, you are spending 160 bucks. Now, here's the difference. You could not afford to spend more. You got your paycheck of, say, 500 bucks, and you spent 200 of it on power, or 600 like mine is for some reason. You spent 200 of it on power, 30 or 40 on water, about 100 on internet access, about 50. Let's say you've got a Walmart plan for phone access, and now you haven't even gone to the grocery store yet. You haven't even paid your taxes yet. You've done none of this stuff, but you've only got a little bit of money left over. So you have to choose between getting a really nice pair of shoes or getting a pair of shoes, any pair of shoes, and also getting food, also getting groceries, also being able to sustain yourself. Now, this also comes with a lot of hidden costs, too. If you've ever worn very cheap shoes, you understand something deep and wrong with them. Not only do those very cheap shoes cost less and wear out faster, but they also tend to have less support for your feet. This means you end up having to buy extra things to go with them. Arch support. You know those little arch support things they sell next to shoes all the time at Walmart? There's a reason they do that. They know that not every shoe that you're grabbing actually has good arch support. They know that every shoe you're grabbing isn't going to necessarily be comfortable, so you're having to buy gel pads or plastic pads or arched pads, something to make those shoes more comfortable. Whereas your friend was able to spend $80 on a really good pair of shoes that are going to last them 1 to 2 years, that have good arch support and have all that stuff, you are having to buy a cheaper pair of shoes and then give them aftermarket modifications to make them good. This compounds the problem. Now, not only over the course of 2 years is your friend spending $80 on one pair of shoes, you are spending more than $160 because every single time you replace your shoes, you're probably also replacing those insoles. And this is compounded by the fact that you are wearing worse shoes, so you are going to have more medical problems. Citrus says taxes are taken out of the paycheck. Twitch doesn't do that. No. I have to pay my taxes at the end of the year. I don't have that taken out of my paycheck. I had to pay... I owed $10,000 the previous time I did taxes before I itemized all of my deductions, and then I owed $2,500 in taxes. So it's also expensive to be a Twitch streamer, which is just great. Yeah, Twitch gives out 1099s. So not only are you spending more on your shoes over time, not only are you having to modify those shoes a little more over time, but now let's make things worse. Your medical expenses are going up because the shoes you are wearing are not giving you actually good cushioning for your feet. So now you are having things like stress fractures. Now you are having different issues in your feet that are arising because you are using your feet, you are on your feet all the time, and you are wearing cheaper shoes that do not support you as well as they could be. So now the $80 that your friend has spent, which has let them alleviate all of these problems, ignore all of them, you've spent at minimum about $200. Let's say $160 for the shoe replacements, and every other shoe replacement you're also going ahead and getting a new pair of insoles. So you spent minimum $200, not counting the extra medical expenses that have come from this. But what option did you have? What option did you have here? You didn't have an actual option. You only had enough to spend for the $20 shoes. But that ended up being more expensive for you. This means that it was more expensive for you to be poor because you did not have the luxury, because you were not wealthy enough to have the luxury of buying a good piece of equipment that would save you stress, that would save you pain, that would save your body. You didn't have the luxury of buying the good piece of equipment, so you had to buy the piece of equipment that you could afford. And that piece of equipment actively caused more problems down the future and caused it to be more expensive. But you can't do anything about that in the beginning, because you only have the $20 to spend. You only have the $20 to spend. Your friend did not. Now, there's obvious ways you can throw monkey wrenches into this. What if your friend buys you the shoes? Well, that might work once or twice, but not everybody's going to be lucky enough to have a friend that can do that. So keep things to the simple. The shoes are expensive. You buy the cheap ones. The cheap ones have these compounding problems. Because these cheap ones have these compounding problems, you end up spending more money over time than your friend paid once, because you couldn't afford the upfront expense. And this is kind of how everything works, right? If you get a car loan, the interest is going to make that car far more expensive over time than if you were able to buy the car outright. Two cars that are equally marketed at the exact same rate, the car with interest is going to cost more than the car without. This is the same thing with credit. Let's say that you are behind on your bills and you have to use a credit card to pay some of your bills. Now you've got interest on your credit card, and Growlithe is barking, so give me a second. Is it? Like I said, it works this way for everything. You need to afford your bills on credit. You end up spending interest in credit. It is more expensive for you to pay things that way. People who have the luxury of spending their money up front end up spending less money overall, and they get to keep their wealth that they have, or whatever wealth they actually have. In this situation, you don't necessarily have to be rich to afford the upfront costs. You just have to be richer than the other guy, which is still a lot. So that's the whole premise of the Boots theory of economics, is that your expenses are actually going to be higher when you are poorer. As another example, just a personal one for me. So I can't afford to get my AC fully fixed. I don't know what it means for it to be fully fixed because I thought it was fully fixed. But as the summer months crept in, the AC has not been strong enough to take care of the house. So obviously something is still wrong with the AC. So we are having to use window units. Window units break more often than central AC, so you have to replace them more often, which means it ends up being more expensive over time using window units. It's this way with everything. Every piece of hardware that you can get for cheaper ends up costing you more in the long run. Even food is this way. The cheapest food you can find is the least healthy food. The food that has the most preservatives and high fructose corn syrup and everything else that your body is not super keen on. It can process it, and there are ways to counteract it with a healthier lifestyle, but generally speaking, these create compounding problems with our health. It is easier and cheaper for people to afford the food that is worse for them, so they end up having more health problems, and it ends up being more expensive later on down the road. And the answer isn't just buy the healthier food. As an example, in terms of just raw calorie count, right? If I were to buy ground beef right now, 73% ground beef, 73% lean, 27% fat is the cheapest ground beef you can find, usually in my area. That ground beef will cost you about $3.50 a pound. If you were to get the 93% lean stuff, the stuff that is actually far better for you because it is a leaner protein, it has fewer health problems, that would end up running you $6 or $7 a pound. You end up paying double per pound of meat, and no sane person is going to do that when they're on a budget. Nobody who is on a strict budget is going to take care of that. Sarah Chikorita says, because a 2-liter of pop is $150 and a half gallon of juice is $3.79. That's actually a spook. Sarah, did you know that that bottle of juice is far less healthy than that bottle of soda? And I'm dead fucking serious. One of the least healthy drinks in the entire country is fucking fruit juice. It is one of the absolute worst things you can drink, period. They are some of the highest sugar concentrated things on the planet. It is, and they don't give you anywhere near the amount of health benefits that you would get from just eating the fucking fruit. If you eat fruit for its antioxidants value, for its vitamin C, for anything, if you are eating fruit, then you are getting fiber, you are getting calories, you are getting things that your body needs. If you are drinking fruit juice, you are taking away almost every healthy thing in the fruit, and you are leaving just the flavor and the sugar. It is one of the absolute worst fucking things you can put in your body. If you are trying to lose weight, if you are trying to maintain weight in general. Sarah Ticarita says, I'm talking juice, not juice drink, which is sugar water with a little bit of juice in it. No, I am saying juice. Like pure orange juice. The same thing, Sarah, is really, really horribly unhealthy for you. Fruit juice, not juice, fruit juice. Would it be healthier if you juice it yourself? No, it's not. Fruit juice is not a healthy thing. It is not a healthy thing. It is all of the negatives of fruit and stripping out a lot of the positives. The fiber in fruit is the thing that makes the glucose in fruit less impactful on your body. You start juicing that fruit, you are taking out a fuck ton of that fiber. Like a lot of that fiber. Said, geez, adds mid-sentence. Oof. My Little Geekery says, yeah, fruit juice has nothing in it. It's filtered to the point to have nothing left. Yeah, if you're juicing it yourself, you can increase the pulp content. You can get it better. But at that point, just fucking eat the fruit. Just eat the fruit at that point. Drink water, eat fruit. That's going to be way healthier for you. Way better. And if you really want drinkable fruit, then yeah, use a blender. Make a smoothie. Because if you're making a smoothie, you are keeping all of those important parts in. You are keeping all the nutrients from the skin. You are keeping the fiber. You are keeping all that stuff that helps your body. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's neither here nor there. The point is, when we are talking about being poor, being without a lot of money, it costs us more over time to be poor. We spend more because of credit. We end up having worse credit, so we end up having to spend more whenever we have to take out loans for cars or houses in the first place. For those of us that could even afford a house, the house would end up being cheaper in most cases than an apartment, but who's got the ability to front the upfront cost for a house? Barely anybody. I lucked out with mine. I got very lucky being able to buy my house, and I recognize that it was purely luck that let me get my house. It ends up costing so much more if you cannot put forward upfront costs on things, than if you are just having the ability to buy it outright. But barely anybody has the ability to buy it outright. So, Ravalern also posted this in regards to Boots Theory. Sam Vine's Boots Theory. The reason the rich were so rich was because they managed to spend less money. Take Boots, for example. He earned $38 a month plus allowances. A really good pair of boots cost $50, but an affordable pair of boots, which were sort of okay for a season or two and then leaked like hell when the cardboard gave out, cost about $10. Those were the kind of boots Vimes always bought and wore until the soles were so thin that he could tell where he was in Ankh-Morpork on a foggy night by the feel of the cobbles. But the thing was that good boots lasted for years and years, and a man who could afford $50 had a pair of boots that would be keeping his feet dry in 10 years' time, while the poor man could only afford cheap boots, would have to spend $100 in boots in the same time, and would still have wet feet. This was Captain Samuel Vine's Boots Theory of socioeconomic unfairness. Far more succinct than the layman's version that I brought up, but the point resonates the same. Those of us who can afford upfront costs spend less overall on things than those of us who have to get things on credit, those of us who have to get things through loans, those of us who have to get the cheaper version of things just to replace them later on down the line. Power tools this happens with as well. You buy the cheapest power tool around, you will be replacing pieces more often. I found this out years ago when I was doing home maintenance with a lot of Ryobi tools. I still buy Ryobi tools because they are the affordable option, but when it came to like drill bits, my Ryobi drill bits ran out far faster than things like my DeWalt ones did. And that made it very hard to get projects done if the only thing I had on me was the Ryobi set. So I have a big set of Ryobi bits, so I've got all of my lesser used pieces that will one day break, and then I've got a little thing of just DeWalt Phillips heads, because the Phillips heads for Ryobi break so fast and so easily. But I don't have the money to just buy a big set of DeWalt stuff. That's about $20 more for the exact same thing. I can't justify that cost, so I end up having to spend more over time in replacements. Citra says sometimes you're just paying for the brand, though. Yes, sometimes you are just paying for the brand. But oftentimes not. Oftentimes not. Milwaukee tools are really expensive. They're very expensive compared to something like Ryobi. Sometimes you are just paying for the brand. Oftentimes, though, the extra money that you are spending is actually making a huge difference in the longevity of the item. 110%. Dr. Bree says it's an actual drill brand that I learned about when I became a machinist. Huh, interesting. Interesting. That said, I wanted to just talk about that one real quick because it strikes true to me, especially as somebody who is only able, like literally the only reason that I'm able to get a little bit out of credit card debt right now, that I even have a light at the end of that tunnel, is because one of my patrons was willing to work with me on getting that taken care of. Somebody who, as far as I can tell, could afford the upfront cost was able to help. And I recognize that's a super privileged position for me to be in. Which is why shit like this ends up mattering so much to me. Because I know what this feels like to be drowned in the costs of not having a lot of money to begin with. That said, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and insert end of video tagline here. Hey, just wanted to give a quick thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who help keep me afloat and help keep this channel going. YouTube and Twitch are wonderful platforms, but at the end of the day, stability is not one of their strong suits. If you want to support my channel, then obviously Patreon is one of the best ways of doing that. Link is in the description. But I do want to personally thank everybody who has contributed to the channel. Those people would be Red Joker, Purple Poundini, Jemshin, Britzkrieg, Jupe the Malignant, Michael, Ravalern, Mabbity Babbity, Astral Frontier, Autumn and Angel, Nixie Chan, Mark Anthony, Victorian Alchemist, I'm not saying the last part of that, and you know that. Arcton Arclacier, Kiratorian, Dren Hadamata, Jordan M, John L, Lord Bleck, Smiling Game Master, and Fire Shard. and everyone else who supports my channel and lets me do what I do full time. This is a dream job of mine that I never believed that I would be able to take full time, and with your help, I've been able to do it. So thank you so very much for that. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you all enjoy, and I hope you all are having a wonderful time. I will see you all in the next one, hopefully.